Well, hello everybody. It is Friday here at Making It Simple. Thank you for joining me today. I'm Pastor Andy. I really want to talk to you today about thinking. Thinking. Who controls your thoughts? What controls your thoughts? It goes back to what we allow in our life. It goes back to who we allow in our life. You see, the things that we allow, meaning intentionally, purposely, whatever the case, that we allow into our life pours into our life in either a positive or negative way. The result of one or both of those infiltrations into our life result in how we think, which ultimately results in how we act and how we treat each other and all the different components that goes along with life. We've been talking about how Jesus handled things in these last several verses here in John chapter 8. The way that he handled the situation with the woman caught in adultery was beautiful. It was a story of redemption. It was a story that clearly marked how he deals with each and every one of us when we're caught in something. But he also showed us how he dealt with those who believed that their authority was much greater than his. And they didn't like it. And when light began to expose that dark, then we began to see a different side of things. And we're told they walked away. Now that doesn't mean they went away, as in totality, but they walked away from that moment to once again convene somewhere else and figure out, okay, what are we going to do now? Oh yeah, let's go back to the same old playbook. Let's just do that over again. You see, friends, the enemy, while crafty and cunning, is not very smart. And I don't say that in an arrogant or a prideful way. But even if we watch the tricks and the schemes of a lot of stuff that happens today, it's the same nonsense that's been played over and over and over the many, many course of years, not just here, but all around the world. When someone has a less than above board reason for wanting to do stuff, they generally try to find ways to make it beneficial to them. And so these that desired great power and to remain in that great power were willing to do anything at all costs. We've seen that. But their stubbornness and their unwillingness to hear would also cause their demise. Many, many structures of government and dynasties and whatever the case over the course of human history have fallen because they imploded. They took themselves down. Abraham Lincoln once said that America would never fall from a foreign adversary. We'd do it to ourselves. And we're well on our way. And it goes back to the same reasons that was going on here. I'm not willing to listen to anybody. I've got it all figured out. Or I've got an agenda and I'm not going to let anything get in the way of that or anybody. And if they do, I'm going to call them every name in the book. I'm going to shame them. I'm going to, well, you get my point. So this is what was going on. Jesus had just come out of this and he had just said unto those yesterday, we talked about this, that if you follow me, I'm the light of the world. And I'll give you the light of life. I'll show you where to go. I'll show you how to get there. And I'll ensure that you arrive safely. And so it tells us today in our verse, the Pharisees, they heard this. And they came and they said, oh, what you're saying is not true. Your record doesn't bear any truth. This is what they had done before. Back in chapter 5, they said, oh, you don't, well, everything that you're saying is not true. You're saying this and you're saying that. You don't have the authority. It's the same old playbook. You see, the doubters, they continued to come in and they were demanding more proof. They had asked him before for more proof. And this won't be the last time. Before the cross, they're going to come back again and say, we want to see more proof. There just comes a point in time to where there is no more proof. And that's exactly what he would end up telling them. There is no more. There is no more signs. There's no more. You have seen everything. And regardless of what I show you, you're not going to believe. You've made your mind up. What does this come back to, friends? It's a heart issue. You've heard me say this in multiple lessons. It is a matter of the heart. Hard-heartedness is a different level of stubborn. Okay? Stubborn is, well, I just want it my way, and I'm going to hold my breath until I get it. Stubborn is, maybe we even have that old saying. I've heard it, certainly growing up. Most of us have. Well, so-and-so, they're just set in their ways. I don't know if that's a Southern thing or not. But there's a different level of something just personal that really has no effect on anybody else. And when it moves to the level of I don't care, that's two different things. The doubters, they kept coming in. They're wanting more proof. They're saying your claims are not enough. We got to have more proof. But the fact of it is, he provided everything, friends. It's no different today. He's provided everything. People are either going to accept it or they're not. The intent and the full purpose of everything that I do here, and making it simple, is to provide a platform that makes everything stated here very clear. Again, it is not an expository breakdown of Greek and Hebrew and all the stuff that some people are going to try to sell you on. That's not what I try to do here. I want to show you the life lessons that Jesus gave us through the entirety of Scripture. They're all there. From Genesis 1:1 to Revelation 22:21. They're all there. Everything. It's all there. I want to make it simple. I want to show you how this applies to life and how we can say, wait a minute. I get that. That makes sense. Or, you know what? I do see that right now. Because, again, this is recycling 101 here. This is not anything new. Nothing that we're seeing right now is new. It's all been done before. It's just different people involved, different eras involved, but it's all the same issue. It's a matter of the heart. And until we correct that, it is much like a medical condition to some degree, in that if we have a heart issue, meaning that it's not working right, it's not beating right, or it's not in rhythm, it's got a disease, affecting the muscles or whatever, until that's corrected, it's not going to get better. The body is going to continue to fail. The body is going to continue to be the benefactor of that bad heart, and the results are not good. Hard-heartedness is the same thing. It is a heart matter, meaning that I have moved from the level of just mere personal stubbornness, I don't really want to change, or I don't want to do this, to I don't care. And I don't care who it affects. I don't care who it hurts. It's a dangerous place. So he continues and talks to them, and he says to them, well, I've borne the record of myself. I've shown you that. You've seen that. But my record is true. In other words, you can't dispute it. Let's just go back to what just happened with the woman that you drug in front of me, claiming that she was in an adulterous situation. We dealt with that, and the way that we dealt with that was I sat down or stooped down and wrote on the ground about you. Now, how would I know that? How would I know that if my record wasn't true? And not only is my record true, but what I wrote down was true, because in the face of it, you walked away. You didn't have any rebuttal. But they didn't want to hear that. They want to keep going back to the same playbook. Oh, we've got proof. We've got proof that you did this, even though they never did. We've got all this stuff. Oh, we're going to get him this time. No. And they were never going to get him, because nothing they could say was true. They would have never accomplished anything had he not allowed certain things. But he says, my record's true, because, you see, I know where I came from, and I know where I'm going. This speaks to relationship. Because he's telling them, you are so unwilling to hear the truth. You are so impervious to this idea that you don't know everything, that you're unwilling to listen to anything or anybody. And so you've got an agenda, you've got an intent, and you're not going to budge. And I can see that. It's abundantly clear. But you've moved to a place now where it's dangerous because you don't care what the results are, as long as you get your way. You don't care who it hurts, even if it hurts you and your cause or your purpose in the eyes of others. You want that mental note of self, I won, I got my way. But you really didn't win. You didn't accomplish anything. All you did was allow light to expose dark. This is why it is so important that we filter out the things that affect our thinking. You see, friends, today thinking seems to be almost a thing of the past. And by that I mean it seems that no one thinks anymore. You just hear it on TV and run out and do it. But that's not what God wants. That's not what God wants at all. He says here, stubbornness is a powerful matter at times because it can become blinding. See, it's one thing to have an issue, but it's another thing to not deal with that issue. You can have that heart condition today, but through proper things, diet and exercise, possibly medication, or at least vitamins and a regimen of different things, possibly it can be reversed. It can be made better, or at least to some degree. It could require more. Maybe there's surgery. Maybe there's a heavier bevy of medicines you would have to take. Whatever the case. My dad had to have a valve replaced many years ago. Other people I've known have had to have a whole thing fixed. The transplant, all these different things. But to ignore it is one of those matters that it's not going to get better. It's only going to increase on the wrong side of that. And the results of that are potentially deadly. Well, there's no difference here with the hard heart. The longer that condition remains, the longer it is unattended to, it gets worse. And as it gets worse, the more people that it affects, including the one with the condition, because they no longer see their need for change. They no longer see their need for the ability to hear or see or anything else, because they've determined, I'm right no matter what. As I've shared with many of you in different lessons that I've taught, when I was in law enforcement, I saw this all the time, because that attitude was the prevailing attitude in oftentimes the actions of others against others. And no greater place did you see that than in a courtroom when someone was testifying against someone. You would hear their heart. One of the saddest things I ever heard, and again, I think I've probably shared this before, but with a person in a family court situation, and they said, I do not care, because the judge asked this person, what was their reason for doing what they were doing? They said, I don't care who this hurts. It makes no difference to me whatsoever as long as I get my way. I heard it with my own ears. Jesus here is speaking to their hearts, and he tells them, I know where I am. I know where I came from. I know where I'm going. But you don't. You don't. You cannot tell where I came from or where I'm going. What was he speaking to here? Is what he had said to them before. You claim to be this aficionado of the things of God. You claim to be the experts of the law and the representatives of things of faith and spiritual things and all the stuff that where everybody around here comes to you for spiritual advice and counsel, and you're pointing them toward God. You don't even know God. Therefore, you can't recognize when the presence of God is in front of you because you closed your eyes. You've become your own God in many ways. You've determined, I'm right, everybody else is wrong, and I'm not going to listen to anybody. Do you see how dangerous that could be? Do you see how that relates to our modern times and those who attain leadership, regardless of the title in front of their name? But when they move into the realm of, it is all about me, I'm right, everybody else is wrong, and I'm not going to listen to anybody, that doesn't help anybody. It causes a mess. And that is one of the greater reasons we have the divide in our country that we have right now, friends, is because of this same problem that existed 2,000 years ago. It's still here right now. Jesus said, you judge after the flesh, but I judge no man. Now, that was not speaking to the fact that there's no consequence. That's not what he was saying. He was saying you only look at the surface. You don't look at any details. You don't look at anything but what you can see. And you don't see beyond that. You determine something based on one thing and one thing only, your opinion, your assessment, your judgment of the situation. We go back to the situation with the woman that they say was caught in adultery. What did that mean? Just as we talked about in that lesson, was it a literal, physical going on at that moment? Was she walking down the street too close to somebody? Was she speaking to somebody? Again, the accusatory mindset doesn't allow for one to see anything but what they've determined. I one time was accused by a person. They lived across the street from my house. In my first year of ministry, I lived on one side of the road, they lived on the other side of the road. This person went to some of the leadership in my church and they said, hey, your pastor's running around with a woman. We've seen him leaving back and forth several times this week with her in a car. They gave the description of the car, they gave the description of the woman. It was true. It was my sister. Was taking her to a doctor's appointment because she wasn't allowed to drive after she got done with the appointment because of the medication she had to take or whatever it was that she was doing at that time, because she was preparing for a major back surgery. Accusatory with no fact. Accusatory with very, very surface accusations. Jesus spoke to their hearts and he's saying, you don't see what's real. You only see what you want to see. And that's what you base your judgments on. That's what you, just like you're demanding more proof. But it doesn't matter how much proof I show you, you refuse to look at it. You're not going to look at it. You've already made your mind up to see what you're going to see. And so only thing that you're going to accept is your way, which leaves no room for anything else. It leaves no room for even a consideration that not only might you be wrong, but there's more. You see, one of the things that have harmed the church over the years is the divisionary status sometimes, and again, I don't say this is a general stereotype, but the divisionary status sometimes of the denominational system. In other words, if you go to the Baptist church or if you go to the Methodist church or you go to the whatever church, you're right, they're wrong. Well, that's not true. Jesus says here, this goes deeper than the surface. You've heard me reference before the fact that I live here by the ocean. The ocean is an amazing, amazing, powerful creation that we can look at. We can swim in it, walk on the shore of it, fish in it, and I do all of those things. However, the surface is one thing. That can create a visual that is truly amazing, because it's this enormous body of water that is controlled by the power of God as to how far it goes, when it goes back, all the different things, the tidal system, it's an amazing thing. But you can take it to the next level when you get in it. And by that I mean you dive or you snorkel, where you can actually look what's underneath the surface. It changes your entire perspective of everything. This is what the Lord is saying. Don't become so stubborn and so hard-hearted and so set in your way that you won't see anything else, because you may very well miss the most beautiful thing you've ever seen. You may miss the truth. You may miss something that will change your life forever, because hard-heartedness does not help anybody. And this is all he was trying to get these folks to understand, is your refusal to listen, your refusal to hear. Who are you helping? You're not helping anybody. People come to you for advice. You don't have an answer. You just got an opinion, because you claim this. You claim to be this expert. You claim to be this, again, the spokesperson for God, and you don't even know God. He tells them what is necessary to get it through, because you're not willing to see. He's not chastising them. He's not correcting them. It is light exposing dark. And the things that are hidden in the darkness oftentimes want to remain there, whether it's a literal creature or an animal or whatever the case, or the things that we don't want people to know about. Here he's saying, you've allowed that to move into a place that is so unhealthy and so unhelpful to you and everybody that you are involved in. Why do you think that is good? It's not. You won't listen to anything. We see it repeated every day, whether it's in people that we know or whether it's something on television. Friends, let me just share this with you as we wrap up our time today. Be mindful of what you allow in your life and who. Be very, very mindful of what you listen to and how it impacts your thinking. Because if we get moved to that realm to where we're unwilling to receive any information, we're unwilling to receive the truth, we're unwilling to receive a different side of things, it leaves us out. Because you see, on the surface is one thing. We may see one thing. But when we get down to the heart of it, we may see something completely different. Hard-heartedness is almost at an epidemic place in our world today. We hear the words pandemics and every other kind of demics that are going on around the world. Everybody's scared to death of everything. And I'm not discrediting people getting sick. Please don't say that. Please don't think that I'm saying that at all. However, far worse is the heart condition of so many around us today in all different types of positions, whether it's someone we know or someone we'll never meet. And it is impacting and affecting the lives of others. Make sure that's not you. Check your heart today. What are you listening to? Who's controlling your thinking? What resources are pouring into you? Because Jesus here is saying it is so important that you see and hear. That requires a willingness, but it also requires a vessel, our heart, that is willing to receive that which is given unto us. And right now, what we need to know is the truth of Christ. He will open your eyes. I've said this in many lessons. If you're struggling with all the things going today and you're wanting clarity, you want to know what is the right thing to do, many times someone will say, well, just pray and God will show you. That's true. However, are you willing to receive that answer? Because that will depend on the condition of your heart. God will give you the answer, but are you willing to receive it? That's where the two differences are. It will be offered, but are you willing to receive it? It is much like if you're in need of a meal and someone offers you a ham sandwich. Well, I don't want that. I'd rather have a steak. You got the answer. You rejected it. That is a condition of the heart. Whatever God is sharing with you today, maybe you're hearing this for the first time. You say, you know what? I don't have a relationship with the Lord. All you got to do is say yes. He's offered the living bread. Will you take of it? Will you let him change your life? Open your eyes and your ears to the real truth, the truth of Christ that will never, ever lead you wrong. He says, I know where I came from and I know where I'm going. That's the one you can trust because he's never been proven wrong. God bless you. I hope this lesson will make you think as we look back at light and dark how he handles things, the way that he dealt with things. Friends, he'll do the same thing for you. Whatever you've been caught in, he'll help you through it. Wherever you are, if you're in the darkness, he'll shine his light on there. If you don't know where you're going, he does. And he says to you today, follow me. I hope you have a phenomenal weekend. I appreciate you. I pray for you. And I am just so grateful to have this opportunity to share some time with you. Have a wonderful day, a wonderful weekend, and Lord willing, Monday, we'll be right back here with another edition of Making It Simple.